welcome to After the Show, your weekly movie podcast brought to you by A. Scully and Sid Talk. We're addicted to movies. Are you? Hello, everybody. Welcome to After the Show. Hello, Sid Talk. How are you?
Hello, I'm great.
We are actually professionals today. We've got new microphone equipment.
Just today.
Yeah, we've... episode 780 that was the time we became professionals.
So 779, all 779, all crap until now.
Yeah, all bad.
I disagree. First of all, that we've become professional, and second of all, that everything before today was bad. So yeah, I disagree.
Basically, for the people who are interested in technical details, we used to use USB microphones, and they were good. Obviously, I mean, we've had 780 episodes. One of mine crapped out at one point, remember? Mm-hmm. Started going weird. We bought some more USB microphones. Every week I had this issue with echoing. So I decided to get some professional microphones, XLR microphones with an interface. And now, hopefully, we just have pristine sound. Everything sounds good. Or it sounds absolutely terrible and we've actually gone down in quality. Who knows?
And I have to be the devil's advocate here and say, does anybody care other than you and
Apparently
sound people? I know, you and sound people.
Yeah. So let's just take that out of the mix now. Get it out of the mix.
You got it out of your... Oh, is that a sound audio?
Joke,
okay,
yeah.
Got it.
So, welcome to After the Show. It's Saturday, March the 25th. This is After the Show number 780. We are a movie review podcast. And this week, we're looking at the movie Plane. It's a 2023 movie, released on Blu-ray now, rated R. You can also stream it from our friends at Lionsgate who sent us the 4K disc for review. Sid Talk, give us the synopsis of the movie Plane.
Well, some people go up in an aeroplane, and there's some problems. And then the plane is just there all the time, pretty much. And spoiler alert, there's more plane.
Plane. It's not called Plane for fun. It's mostly about a plane.
It's not a thinker. It's actually, they're on a plane. And let's just do spoilers, shall we? The plane goes down, and then the plane goes up.
So I'll give you the one off the box. It says, a pilot finds himself caught in a war zone after he's forced to land his commercial aircraft during a terrible storm.
Correct. All that's correct.
So, Plane, starring Gerard Butler. I don't know why I always say his first name in a French way.
I don't know. But you always have.
Gerard Depardieu Butler. Plane, what did you think?
I enjoyed it.
The end.
The end. I mean, you know what you're in for as soon as it begins. We have a pilot who's running a little bit late, and his daughter is waiting on him, and he says, don't worry, I'm going to be there on time. It's New Year's Eve, which you don't really play up much in the movie when you think about it. It
doesn't matter when it is.
It doesn't. It's just that he needs to get to his daughter. It's New Year's Eve. And FYI, I have been on a plane at midnight on a New Year's Eve when the plane couldn't take off. Everyone was sitting there hot and sweaty, and the crew brought us out wine and drinks and did a little, woo, Happy New Year when the countdown hit midnight. So
very nice.
There's my little plane on a New Year's Eve story for you. We were delayed until about 2:00. So
your plane story wasn't quite as entertaining as this one.
No one died that I'm aware of. There was no drama. It was just, and there was before cell phones. So there you go. You couldn't sit there and just be on your cell phone. It was just sitting there reading the little magazine that's in the seat in front of you.
In-flight magazine.
Yes.
Everybody's read one of those at some point.
I'm so old. I have that story. Pre-cell phones. Oh my gosh.
I'm TV in the back of the seat.
Oh yeah, there was none of that. No. No entertainment. It was literally you just sat there and...
Did you just stare out the window?
Well, I happened to have a notebook, so I could draw some pictures.
Oh, I thought you meant a laptop.
No, there was no carrying a laptop around as a common... I mean, obviously they existed, but no, it wasn't a common thing back then. At all. So back to this movie, because my incident did not make it into a movie. I know that's shocking. So the guy, we get to meet the pilot. He's a little bit hurried. We don't see any issues with him as we did on Flight. Was that the name of the Denzel Washington one?
The Denzel Washington one?
Mm-hmm. Denzel Washington was a pilot.
Oh,
Flight,
yeah.
I think is the name. See, that one was
that
called
one, he was an
Flight.
alcoholic.
Yes, I think we knew fairly quickly. I mean, he rescued those people. This guy rescues everybody, essentially. Oh, spoiler. So we don't get that trope, but as soon as he says, "Oh, I'm going to be on time" to his daughter,
that he's got the goods.
Yes, and then we have a prisoner who's in handcuffs, and we've only got 14 people on the plane, which sort of eliminates the big, huge drama of, 200 people having to deal with or whatever. We also have the young co-pilot who has a beautiful family, and he's all bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, about whatever. He's like enthusiastic, so that means something, usually.
Yeah.
And then the guy comes on the plane and he's like, "Why are we going through all this bad weather? Red flag, everybody." The bad weather is bad. And then we find out he was in the military. So we know, okay, he's got some skills, some very special skills. All that's fed to you very quickly, very early.
It's very like tropey, the whole thing.
It is. However, I didn't mind it at all. It felt right. Like it seemed okay. We meet Bonnie, who I really hope this airline gives her an early full retirement with benefits for the rest of her freaking life, because she was awesome. Bonnie is the head flight attendant on this flight, and she was insanely good, even though she didn't get many lines or anything. I love that woman. I would
also apply the same benefits to Gerard Butler's character.
Yeah, yes. And Danny, the co-pilot, yes.
The fictional benefits.
Yeah, fictional benefits for sure. So they have all that going. You know what you're in for. If you've seen enough movies like we have, then you know the story. What's going to happen? Plane's going to have a problem, and then there's going to either be a struggle against nature to survive, or us versus some bad guy / organization. And
I wasn't quite sure, actually, because I'd not read the synopsis, what was going to be the adversity. Whether it was the convict was going to go nuts, or what else could have happened?
Just getting stuck in the air, because I'm like, I kept thinking this is called plane, right?
Right.
So we're going to spend
probably going to
2
be
hours.
Always on the plane.
Yes.
Yeah.
It wasn't. Spoiler alert again. It was not all on the plane, not in the plane.
No. So I wasn't sure whether we were doing a Con Air situation, because there was a bit of, I was like, oh shit, this is Con Air too, basically.
Well, you only had the one criminal, though.
Yeah,
so.
Well, they were stepping it down in budget. No John Malkovich in this one. So I was like, is it going to be weather, or is this plane going to get shot down, or what's going to happen? And what does happen? Spoilers.
Weather. Nature brings down the plane. They get struck by lightning. Therefore, half the fuel is gone. All the electrics are gone. The battery's dying. Blah, blah, blah. We have to crash land. We find an island. And of course, the island, then again, your brain is like, okay, is this just going to be us versus nature? Like, it sucks here. Yeah, we're trapped here for like 5 years. It's like the movie or the TV show
Lost.
Exactly. But it wasn't that. And because I knew nothing about this movie, I thought, is there anything weird going to happen? Like supernatural, or kind of, because I have no idea, right? I don't know I have no clue coming into this movie. That quickly got dispensed with as we progressed. We find out the island is controlled by criminals. So that's bad. There's your bad guy / organization that you're having to deal with. And then we kind of progress. Our special military skills come in handy. The prisoner with special military skills comes in very handy. The prisoners are all really annoying, as you would find probably in most situations, at least in a movie.
Because they're just regular people.
Well, they make the two of the guys just complete assholes.
Well, they're all caricatures of something.
Yes,
right?
And then you've got the whiny people. The two young women were kind of the best. They just sort of like were well behaved and didn't cause any drama the way the big mouth British guy did. Of course, you always got to have that obnoxious British guy causing trouble.
Yeah, what the hell is that? Like, that was like a discount Jason Statham.
He wasn't even that. Oh my God. He did nothing. No, don't erase that from the record, because he was nothing. He did nothing.
No, I don't mean like
you mean just because he's bald?
I mean the accent that he had and the baldness.
Right. Other than that, no, he did fuck all. And I'm just surprised that he didn't end up, being a casualty. It was also one of those things where we've seen enough horror movies to know if you put together about 10 to 15 people, some of them are going to get grinded up in the grist mill of the story, right?
Yeah,
they're
expect
disposable. If you don't get to know them in the first 5 minutes, chances are they're going to be a red shirt like on Star Trek.
So what I would say about this movie, I really enjoyed it. These are the kind of movies that you enjoy in the moment, but then don't remember them the week after.
Absolutely. Absolutely agree.
But I don't think that's actually bad. Because if you're actually entertained for 2 hours, that's good, right?
Yeah, I don't disagree with that.
But next week I'll be like, playing? What? Or, a couple of weeks. Which one's that? So, yeah, I don't think that's a bad thing. Because if you're having fun, and it is fun, it's also very violent, I would say. There's some smashing in the face with a sledgehammer.
Oh, yeah, there is.
Yeah. I kind of love Luke Cage. Luke Cage is in this, by the way. He's not playing Luke Cage.
Yeah.
It's the actor of Luke Cage. But he's kind of like, he's almost like the Terminator. It doesn't seem like he's got any feelings when he's killing people.
Well, when we meet him, we find out he's a criminal accused of homicide. And
Yes.
then we find out for the last 15 years, he's been in the French
Foreign Legion.
which to all of us, we know nothing about, but all I know is from movies and TV that's some badass stuff. Right?
Hardcore badasses, yeah.
Almost on the verge of mercenaries, which we also meet in this movie. Some not mercenaries, because they're for high level secret mission dudes, right?
Those guys are badass in this movie.
Yeah.
So, yeah, when they came onto the scene, okay. So the airline, what's the deal? So this plane goes down in the place. The place is run by a militia. The authorities are even scared to go to this place. So immediately the bad guys decide, oh, we could take these Americans who fell down out of the sky on the plane and get money out of it.
They weren't just Americans. We had Swedish, American,
Oh, that's
Korean.
true.
We had Korean, Swedish, American, British. So it was not just American.
They did that on purpose, didn't they? So you couldn't pin it to one thing.
I think so.
Yeah. So that's the thing. They want money for the hostages, but it doesn't really ever get to that, does it?
No, all we really find to convince us that they're very, very, very bad is, number one, they do kill some people right in front of us, but somehow you get anesthetized to that, sadly. But we also see a room where they videotape people and their passports are laying on the floor with dried blood everywhere. So we're pretty sure everyone's screwed.
They've definitely done it before.
Absolutely.
Successfully, probably. Because they're not all dead, right?
Correct.
This story, it doesn't really get that far. Because Luke Cage is such a badass, they just turn up at the compound and then the mercs come. And pretty much they just all get wasted. We don't really get to we have to argue with the government about money or anything. We don't get to that.
No, thankfully.
It's just a straight up action movie. There's a lot of peril. There's a lot of violence. If you like guns shooting, there's a lot of that.
Oh, and I have to mention right off the bat, if you've listened to us enough times talking about action movies, I am not a fan of fight scenes. I think they're super boring. However,
there's one in this movie.
Yeah, and in my life, I've come across a few. I like the one in Dr. No where he's fighting with the blonde guy on the train. And then I like Bourne fights are very visceral and up close, and Bourne fights are always a little more intense and interesting to me. And in this movie, that fight scene with that guy in that room,
it felt like a real fight scene.
Holy crap. It was like you told these two dudes to hate, you both insult each other's mother and then fight about it. And I was like, holy crap. The cameraman must have been standing between his legs when he's got the guy in the headlight, because he's right up on there and you're feeling every scratch of the clothing on the cement and the grunting. And it was really intense. And I enjoyed that fight scene.
And the fight didn't seem over-exaggerated Hollywood style.
Exactly.
It wasn't like them punching. It was holding on to each other for extended periods of time, trying to subdue the other person.
I feel like somebody knows how people really fight.
Right.
And they're like, look, let's do as realistic as we can.
I agree. It was a good fight. Also, the gunplay is it's very gross. There's a lot of blood squirting out.
Yeah, it got to look a little bit fakey at some points, but
I mean, the mercs pull out this, it's the kind of gun that you take a tank down with. But they're not taking a tank down with it. They're just taking individual dudes out with that.
Yeah, holy crap.
And that is nuts. People just go flying. It just rips them. It's pretty violent there at the end there. There's rocket launchers that come out. It's action-packed. If I have anything issues with it, the plane CGI is really dodgy.
I agree.
They try and move it really fast so you don't notice it as much and zoom the camera in and out and stuff. But as soon as I saw the plane, I was like, I've seen video games with better planes than that. It just looks shitty. And I understand.
What are you trying to say? Video games don't have a high standard?
Well, this is supposed to look photorealistic. Video games generally don't, right? But I've seen a better plane in a video game, for sure. Including Microsoft Flight Simulator, which looks more realistic than that plane. Which is crazy. And that's the only issue I had, because anything else that's special effects in this movie, which I'm assuming is, when they shoot people? Do you think that's like CG blood and everything?
I don't know if it's CG, but some of it looked a bit suspect to me.
But I didn't have a problem with anything else. I wasn't like, oh God, that looks terrible, or that looks like he's on a green screen. Because it looked like they were really in that area with the plane on the strip and everything. I assumed they were, and they weren't in a big soundstage. But the airplane stuff, thankfully, there's very little of it.
Yes.
But there's a part at the end where the plane's going along the runway, which actually did look all right. So, it was a bit uneven, plane CGI-wise. For this type of movie, I give it a pass because, it did what it conveyed to me what I needed to know about the plane.
Oh, this sounds like your standards are dropping.
They are. My standards have dropped wildly. It's just the type of movie. I don't expect it to look like $100 billion. It's fine for what it is,
It's fine. It'll do. It's fine.
So let's get on to the actors who were in this movie. We've got Gerard Butler as Brody Torrance. What did you think of Gerard?
I'm not usually a huge fan. I'm kind of neutral.
Oh, you're not?
No, I'm just neutral.
Oh.
You don't have to hate someone or love someone. There's a lot in the middle. And Gerard and I don't have a love or hate relationship. It's very neutral.
Right.
There's been some ups and downs. But I've hung in there, and this time he won me over. So I'm on the up.
We've seen him in this type of movie before. Seems like it's his thing. Greenland was the last one we saw.
Yeah.
With a disaster in the middle of it. And I always feel like he's just playing the same kind of thing. It feels like the same guy all the time.
I agree.
But you can say that about Liam Neeson. You can say that about Bruce Willis, right?
I mean, Liam Neeson's not the same in Love Actually as he is in...
No, but when he's in an action movie, if it's Taken or it's Run All Night, it just seems like the same guy.
Agree.
So I feel like Gerard Butler does the same thing. But I think he does it well. There's a believability to him when he's doing the action, especially that fight scene in this movie. We've got Mike Colter as Louis Gaspard. You're French. Louis Gaspard.
Are you sure it's French? Because you keep loving the Frenchness.
Well, he was in the French Foreign Legion. Perhaps they gave him that name. I don't know. Because he didn't sound French. So what did you think of Mike? Luke Cage.
I like Luke Cage. I like Mike. So I'm all in. I like the way he's a little bit like broody and he's pissed off. Like we don't know the whole we never find out the whole story, which I like.
Right.
What his whole accused of homicide, escaped from justice, went to the Foreign Legion. That's all we know. So he could be a two-dimensional character. He comes in, kicks some ass, and it becomes very two-dimensional, but he wasn't at all. It was kind of like he was barely there, and yet he was really there because he's the guy who, even though Gerard Butler's character is willing to do what he's got to do, because he even dispatches with that guy he's fighting with, right?
Right.
He's reluctant. He feels, you can tell it's like, he kind of like thought he left that behind. He was in the military a long time ago kind of thing. He just wanted to fly planes to like, I think we find out kind of that he has an anger issue potentially, right?
Potentially.
From one little video clip. And so we find out. So I think he's just been trying for 20 years to just lay low and
subdue himself, like just be a guy.
And so when he chooses to turn on that violent side and he dispatches with that guy, he feels regret. Whereas Luke Cage
doesn't feel shit by the looks of it.
He doesn't seem to. He kept saying, you want things like, do you want that to be you instead of this guy? Or we do what we have to do. Or you can't go guns blazing in because there's an army. They'll kill us all. Like that's his input is restraint and also complete and utter destruction of the bad guys. Like, so I like that we don't get a lot of talking with him. He's just there.
Yeah, he doesn't really have hardly anything. But
I like the way he acts and the way he is in doing his thing. Like he's really pro.
He's also the sweatiest man alive in this movie.
We've established it's hot there, so.
Yeah, he's just pissing with water the entire time. I was like, is somebody spraying him with a little spritzer walking around behind him? Or is it really that hot? You know? We've got Yosen An as co-pilot Samuel. What do you think of this co-pilot guy?
He was good. I mean, he was believable as in, like, you know, not super seasoned, like Gerard Butler guy, but very capable. I mean, again, kind of neutral.
Yeah.
But good.
But pivotal for the story, for sure.
Sure.
Daniela Pineda stars as Bonnie. You really like Bonnie.
I love Bonnie. She's my favorite thing. I want a movie just about Bonnie.
Yeah, Bonnie and Louis.
Bonnie retires, and then they have to pull her out of retirement to go get on a plane that's going to have some crazy shit go happen. See, I've written them a whole movie.
Yeah, it sounds like it's tropey also.
That's fine. Bonnie will save the day. It doesn't matter what the script is. She will say that woman. She's great. I love her.
As soon as you say retirement in a movie, you know.
Yep. When you say somebody says, I'm too old for this shit. I've only got 1 week to retirement.
It's my last day on the job.
Yep. They're screwed.
We've got Evan Dane Taylor as Datu. He's the bad guy. What do you think of him?
He was all right. He was a bit mumbly.
He's a bit mumbly. He's a bit generic.
Very generic. Not scary because he has his henchmen do the bad stuff for him, except for the one chopping of the one guy. But I don't know. I was afraid of him because I feel like once he said something like, everything on this island is mine.
Yeah.
Then I'm like, oh, so you have mental health issues. This is the problem.
He's clearly a maniac.
You are a terrorist, a hostage taker, a taker of life for no reason except for your own, not for money, because everything's a shithole right there where they are, right? Like literally every building is falling down. There's just shit everywhere. They're making the village people live like in
the village people,
the people in the village there, but I guess we assume the whole island are living in a very poverty-stricken thing. So he's keeping them all subdued. It's not like nice and fancy. He's not doing this he didn't have a nice vehicle. You know, it didn't seem like he was doing it for monetary gain. He was just doing it because his ego required it. And that made me like, oh, this guy's dangerous.
Yeah. Directed by Jean-Francois Richet, probably French. He also he directed the remake of Assault on Precinct 13, which is a John Carpenter movie from back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't see the remake because the original's very good and I love it. I just don't want that ruined for me because it was probably worse. So what do you think
you don't know that.
What do you think of the directing?
It was fine. Very functional. I mean, except for that fight scene and like some of the scenes in the plane where they're getting the camera down on the floor and, you know, that there's a little bit of artsy camera angles, which I appreciate. But other than that, it's functional.
It feels like economical, this movie.
I agree.
Like it's got shots that it needs to get. You know, they're not overly complicated and they get them.
Agree.
That's how it feels. Like a Clint Eastwood movie. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Some would say sacrilege. Clint Eastwood's not that kind of filmmaker, but I think he is. I mean, he's good, don't get me wrong, but he's economical also. So IMDb reviews, what are those?
Those are reviews that humans like to log into their IMDb account intentionally with purpose after they've watched a movie or while they're watching a movie. And then they tippity type or clickety click with their fingers. Tip, 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 tip. That's the sound of a finger on a screen.
It's a bit sticky and sloppy sound.
Some really boring. Talk about formulaic. Some of these 1-star reviews are, and we will tell you the classics are, this was a waste of my time, or worst movie ever made, or I got up and left halfway through. Right? Those are some biggies.
Yes.
So we'll see what the people had to say about this movie.
All right. Man number one, or woman, says, is this a joke? It's the most pathetic, implausible script I've ever seen, including the rubbish you see on daytime on sci-fi TV. It's not a white-knuckle experience like the reviews say. It's boring and pathetic. The worst film I've ever sat through. Genuinely embarrassing.
The worst film I've ever sat through. There we go. That counts as a classic.
It does. Second guy says, every movie seems to be worse than the last, and this is the worst ever.
The worst movie. Hey, those guys need to get together, or people, whoever they are.
And then he says, just terrible. And that's it.
Just terrible.
And the third one says, as a pilot, okay,
I've got a professional. Yep. Let's get the pro.
As a pilot, I found it extremely difficult to watch this movie. The portrayal of all the flight-related elements is completely unrealistic. Communications, the physics of flying, the chain of command, landing and departing procedures are all incorrect. It's as if the script was written by somebody not in the flight-related area.
You reckon?
It was, I'll tell you.
You know who it was written by? Someone in the movie writing area.
Who probably didn't care about your...
Well, not true. I'm sure they've done research and they watched people do plane stuff. So this is one of those complaints that I find... Maybe the complaint isn't accurate.
Uh-huh.
I don't know if that person's a pilot. I have no clue. They could just be like...
I mean, I could write a review about any scenario and say I'm it. I could say,
yes,
I work in an emergency room and this was so inaccurate.
Right, and someone will give you credibility because you said you work in an emergency room.
We don't trust you're a pilot is what we're saying.
Exactly. Proof. I need proof. I need your badge number.
He also finishes this off with, the movie is a waste of time and not worth the investment of 2 hours.
Waste of time.
Oh, he could be flying from one place to another in 2 hours, right?
Correct. Could be productive in that time.
So, yeah, that's the reviews for this movie. So, let's give this... There are some extras. On the Blu-ray, there are a making of. You can watch those. You can enjoy them. You can see how a movie was made. Is that good enough?
You don't have to enjoy it.
No, you don't. Or you can just not enjoy it, watch it, not enjoy it, or just don't watch it at all.
Correct.
Kind of thing.
Are those the only options? Can people not make up their own options?
So in conclusion, the movie Plane, I am giving Plane a 6 out of 10.
I think that's fair. I might go a little higher, 6.5, just because I think it's well constructed. And I enjoyed the process. So I wasn't sitting there going, it's a waste of my life.
No, definitely not a waste. Fun for the 2 hours you're watching it. Entertaining.
It's no Geostorm.
Gerard Butler movie called Geostorm, which is probably got like 10 times the budget of this movie. But that one is not as entertaining as this.
Oh, I can't. I think it made our lists of worst movies of that year.
It was the worst one, I think. It was, it was bad. Don't watch Geostorm. Or do watch it if you like cheesy, bad movies.
Watch it and make up your own mind. What we're saying, though, is this one, I think maybe our sliding scale of expectations goes down when you've seen something like, and then when something's not, you're like, well, that's pretty good.
Exactly. So next week, thank you to Lionsgate for letting us watch Plane. And next week, we're going to look at the movie Megan. You know this one?
I don't.
Well, we'll watch it next week and you will find out what it is. Movie recommendations, I am going with my favorite Gerard Butler movie, and it's 300 by Zack Snyder. I think it's where he became a star, right? Or became a movie person. I hadn't seen him before 300, let's say. 300 was awesome. Everybody should watch it. One of the best movies, etc.
Well, I mean, it's a personal choice.
And the second thing I'm going to recommend, it's not a movie, it's a TV show. It's on Disney Plus now. It used to be on Netflix. Now it's on Disney Plus. It's called Luke Cage, and it stars Mike Coulter. It's really good.
Really good.
Yeah, fun. Marvel show. And he will be returning Luke Cage in the new Daredevil series, which airs later this year. Sidta, what are your movie recommendations?
Well, I am going back to the early years of the 2000s. That's a long time ago now, kids. Back when the century was new. Back when the millennia was new.
Back in the 2000s.
Back in the early 2000s. I mean, when you think of 1928, we all go, oh, that was a long time ago. But now we're approaching 2028, right? I mean, that's 5 years away. But still, the early 2000s is where I've picked my science fiction movies out of the list of movies I've seen. And one of these, though, was a little bit off track because I got the date wrong. But whatever. Pontypool from 2008.
Horror movie.
Well, it's also science fiction built in there.
It is.
The Andromeda Strain, which I discovered when I was looking over this list, there was a TV series of Andromeda Strain in 2008. That's not the one I watched. I watched the 1971 Andromeda Strain. So that's a little jump off the train of the early 2000s. Excellent story, though. The Day the Earth Stood Still from 2008 with Mr. Keanu Reeves.
That one was kind of cool. I like that.
It was all right.
Yeah.
But I do like the original and the story, the radio's telling of that. I listen to a lot of old-timey radio, and that's on there in different versions. Then there is, everybody get ready, The Happening.
Oh, God.
I know it's not a fan. You all just keep complaining about it, but it's not any worse than lots of other movies.
I don't like it.
It's better than Geostorm. I'm just putting that out there. And then we have also The Incredible Hulk. I don't know which one. From 2008 would have been the Ang Lee? Or was it
Eric Bana one?
No, that's not Ang Lee.
Yeah, that was when Eric Bana was Dr. David Banner.
In the Ang Lee one?
Yeah, in the Ang Lee one. Then in the next one after that, it was Ed Norton.
Yeah.
And then Mark Ruffalo.
Correct. Okay, so yeah, I think that was right. So
that Ang Lee Hulk is very weird.
Mm-hmm.
It is very weird.
It was the first time I learned that the Hulk just jumps or flies or something.
It was it was odd.
I wasn't aware of that, and I didn't like it because I am a Lou Ferrigno Hulk person. I'm not a fan of Lou Ferrigno as a person, but the 1970s Hulk TV show.
What have you got against Lou Ferrigno as a person?
I mean, I'm saying I'm not a fan as in, I'm not a fan.
I thought you'd done something terrible and you cancelled him.
I don't think he's great, so I'll cancel him a little bit in my mind. But, I mean, as a person, that's the only thing I know of him. And then he's been on other TV shows, and so, but as far as the show goes.
I have nothing against you, Lou Ferrigno.
And I like right. David Banner, whoever plays him in that show. I like him.
Yeah, who is that guy?
I don't know.
I can see his face.
Yep.
I can, the opening to that
yes,
show. I've
when
seen
his
that.
eyes
It's
go
embedded.
green. Yes.
It's embedded into my mind. And you know what was awesome? When they showed you the opening to that show in She-Hulk, but with her. And
yes.
they just copied the beginning of it.
She-Hulk was really good. I liked that one.
It was. If you want to see Daredevil, watch She-Hulk. He's in that.
True.
So, a Scully stuff this week. Thank you, Sid Talk. I've been playing a new game called Forspoken, but I haven't played much of it, so I can't really. I've played like the first bit. So you're this girl. She lives in New York. She's having a hard time. It starts off. She's in court. The court are saying, you've been in court too often. We're going to send you down. And then it's Christmas Eve. Is another trope for you. And the judge is feeling a bit nice, and she says, "I'm going to let you off." So the girl, she's a teenage girl. So she goes off. You find out that she's got no parents. She was a baby who was left in a tunnel by her parents as a kid and never had anybody to look after her.
Okay.
So she goes home. She just lives like in this squat, living on the floor with a cat. There's some bullies around the town, like
of course,
more criminals than bullies, like actual criminals, drug dealers, etc. She does them wrong a little bit. She's like rude to them. They decide to throw a Molotov cocktail into her little squat. Squat starts to burn down. She escapes. As she's escaping across the roof, she sees something shiny. She jumps down. It's this shiny, like a bracelet from like a Indian bracelet, kind of like Ms. Marvel, like she wears.
I was thinking
so she finds this bracelet. She puts it on. The next thing you know, she's in a whole new world, a new land called Athia, and she doesn't know why, and she can't get back to New York City. And she happens to have this band that she put on her arm, happens to give her superpowers.
This sounds very much like Miss Marvel.
It does, quite a
little
bit.
bit creepy.
Yes. But it's a PlayStation 5 game. It looks awesome. Like I say, I've only played that beginning. I've actually arrived in the place, but not really done much. So next week I'll be able to talk more about it. Bill Bixby is the Incredible Hulk.
Correct. I put that on our little timeline.
I told you I'll read anything, and that was what's coming.
Correct. That's the idea.
All right, Sid, so what's for dinner?
Tonight, we are having our own version, We're not sponsored by these people, even though that would be fantastic. But HelloFresh is one of the meal boxes that we get. And they have a barbecue flatbread that has pineapple, barbecue sauce, mozzarella cheese, poblano pepper, onion, and it's so good. So this
Book of the Dead bread.
Book of the Dead bread. If you don't know what that means, that's fine. So this week I got the ingredients to make that. That's what I'm making.
I'll explain the Book of the Dead bread.
Okay.
Okay, so it's like a flatbread. It's rectangle shaped. And it's got like a weird texture to it that looks like the front of the Necronomicon. Or maybe the back where the ear is like stuck on the back of it. So that's it.
Got it.
They should call it evil bread.
Oh my God.
You can have that for free.
You reckon that they'd be interested in that?
I don't know. So Sita, what's your advice?
My advice isn't really advice, and I'm not trying to comfort anyone. So in fact, it probably will uncomfort whoever in the world, because I observe this in a lot of people, and I feel like it's a challenge to understand, but there is a truth that I've kind of come to see and understand. Now, again, this is just from my perspective. I could be wrong, but I'm probably not. But that when someone has pain, like any pain, like a childhood pain, trauma pain, terrible thing pain, a physical pain, a sore knee, a headache, or a horrible traumatic experience, crashing in an airplane, and surviving whatever. It could be the most terrible thing you can imagine, right? And I'm going to say this, and it's going to sound like I'm a real shithead, but that pain that you've experienced is not a license. Like, it doesn't put a big badge on you that says, oh, okay, everybody, for all of humanity, I get to inflict pain on everyone else now because I've suffered.
Hold on, Sidso.
Yeah.
You sound like a shithead.
I do sound like a shithead. But it's like, it's also not like a competition of the most tortured human ever to have existed, right? And there are people who have absolutely unimaginable, horrible, terrible things. I'm not denying that. I can't experience all of those things. I've had terrible things. You've had terrible things. They vary from person to person, right? That you don't get like, there's not some achievement board somewhere that says, oh, Sid Talk had this, and this happened. So she gets ding, 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 X amount of points before she's winning the competition of the pain and suffering in this category. And then she gets, what's the prize? I don't know, the license to put other people through some shit because you had some shit, right? No, it doesn't. And the other thing about it is, and it seems like the element that's missing when someone has true, almost overwhelming pain and suffering in their life, regardless of the reality, when someone's looking at their circumstance, they truly think or believe, or what they've experienced, that they are alone. That they are the only one, that nobody cares, that there's no one who understands, or no one who even wants to understand. I'm not the most sympathetic person in the world. You can probably tell.
That's true.
I'm really not. I'm not built with compassion and empathy. I can kind of get to, but my behavior about empathy is different than what all the experts tell you it should be. But even I understand that you are not alone. And I'm not talking about a belief in a God or anything, because I don't believe in anything. But in the world of humans, you are not alone. There is somebody who will either understand or have more compassion for you than I would, or has experienced something similar. So it doesn't take away from what you've experienced at all. It doesn't, nothing ever erases it, right? But if you get over that one challenge of thinking that you have to suffer alone, you get somehow pushed through that at somehow, some way, right? At some point. There's no timeline. There's no method. It's going to open up the whole of it to maybe help you move on a little bit. I don't know. It depends on the circumstance, but those are just some observations about personal pain and how that kind of integrates itself and how we behave and how we put it out to others, and kind of knock people down for having a success or feeling good or having something good because we don't. And I feel like there's a way to move beyond that interpretation of like what's happening around you. So that's it.
All right. Thank you.
That is not advice.
It is.
It really isn't. It's probably all wrong on every professional front. Every professional who would listen to this be like, don't talk to people like that.
Yeah, exactly.
It is what it is.
Should we have a disclaimer?
Yes.
All right. So ascully.com, that's where you can go for this podcast, or Spotify, iTunes, Amazon, or YouTube. We're also on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. You can email me, ascully@ascully.com. Do not email Sid Talk at whatever her email address is, because she doesn't want your emails. And stay classy, Mr. Gerard Butler. Is that offending anybody? It probably is.
I don't know.
Also in this movie, Gerard Butler. They let him be Scottish.
I know. I was very impressed.
I was impressed too.
Because they don't always do that.
Respect to the people who let him be Scottish.
Correct. And was that it? Did you say your thing?
I did, yes.
And I'm going to say, think for yourselves. Because if you're not doing it for yourself, someone will do it for you.